The question I always get asked is, can we predict the future of house prices in Australia? This is the age-old question that homeowners and investors have been seeking the answer to for decades. There are currently many factors influencing house price volatility, and today we're just going to look at one. Of course, there are 5 major factors that influence prices, and these include finance availability, immigration, infrastructure, confidence and government policy. At this point, we're just going to look at immigration to see what effect it might have on the property market over the next 12 to 18 months, or in fact longer. Immigration, one could argue, has made Australia what it is today. Population growth is the main driver of house prices purely because of the demand it creates and the lack of supply that we have for the demand. Immigration currently contributes around 2/3 to our GDP growth. Australia's identity has been forged through immigration. Frank Lowry, the billionaire and founder of Westfield, said in his recent address to politicians and senior businessmen that immigration is an act of ambition, imagination and bravery, and that Australia needs more of these types of people. He said, "We're all familiar with the differences between the Australia of the 1950s and the Australia of today. We are richer, more productive, more interesting now than we were then. This change would not have been possible without a big immigration program." If we looked at where we excel, it's where we're prepared to take risks. And with almost 25% of our current population born overseas, it's clear that we can see the effect immigrants have had on our nation. A recent study suggested that immigrants are 4 times more likely to become self-made millionaires. So it's little surprise that Australia should be home to so many successful executives who are migrants. Let's take a look at a few in Australia. Richard Pratt, born in Poland. He emigrated with his parents in 1938 and settled in Shepparton, Victoria. After a successful stint as an actor in both London and New York, Pratt took over the family packaging business in Visy in 1969. His net worth when he died in 2009 was more than $5 billion. Harry Triguboff, colloquially known as High Rise Harry, has revolutionised the way Australians live. His Meriton apartments have been derided by architecture critics, and yet they continue to sell on a massive scale, around 1,000 a year. And in 2011 his net wealth was estimated to be more than $4 billion. He was born on the 3rd of March 1933 in China to Russian Jewish parents. He spent his early childhood in the Jewish community in Tianjin and moved to Australia in 1947. Rustin Kogan, of Russian descent, moved to Australia in 1989. He lived in public housing flats and started the multi-million-dollar Kogan Technologies from his parents' garage in 2006. And there are many more. So there's a good argument for increasing immigration, and I'm a great believer of this too. Of course, should immigration be reduced, it is clear that our GDP would drop significantly and our economy would falter. And that's the reason it's unlikely to drop significantly. The problem, however, is that our infrastructure, housing and transport isn't and won't be able to cope with the current levels of immigration. And this provides us with some significant challenges. A recent report produced by PricewaterhouseCoopers predicted that Australia's GDP ranking would drop by 9 in 2050, from 19 now and to 28 in 2050. The report identified that governments have significant opportunities to grow and prosper over this period, but would need to undertake sustained and effective investment in education, infrastructure and technology. We do have some redeeming attributes though. The contribution to GDP per capita in Australia is the 4th highest in the world, behind USA, Saudi Arabia and Germany. Saudi Arabia is, of course, the world's largest exporter of oil. Germany has the largest manufacturing economy, and Australia has the 8th highest total estimated value of natural resources at around 19.9 trillion. That was in 2016. Also, Australia is the 2nd wealthiest nation in terms of wealth per adult, behind Switzerland in Europe. And this is where we have some guidance as to where our future lies. In Australia, we have a great opportunity as having the fastest growing population in the Western world to take advantage of our proximity to Southeast Asia and what we have to offer. So what do we need to do to stay ahead of the game? Well, let's set the scene a little bit first. The world's economies, Western and emerging, are converging in terms of income. The wages gap is closing. In 2016, US GDP per capita was around 4 times the size of China's and almost 9 times that of India's. By 2050, these gaps are projected to narrow to around double China's and around 3 times India's, demonstrating long-term income convergence. This is likely to make it a comparatively level playing field, particularly for manufacturing and technology. So what will this long-term income convergence mean to Australia? Well, Australia's manufacturing economy has essentially been decimated over the past decade due to lower cost imports, but this won't always be the case. As incomes across the world converge, there is an increasing opportunity for Australia to become a powerhouse in the Southeast Asian region. We already have some of the world's richest and largest supplies of iron ore, coal and other minerals, as well as the skills that will be required for future development of new technologies and power generation. Additionally, we have a strong and resilient business legal framework, and this is a framework that allows international trade with confidence. By embracing the development of infrastructure across Australia, we not only solve many of the problems caused by our lack of urban planning strategies, resulting in rapid house price growth and unaffordable homes to our younger people, we will also enhance productivity and create more jobs. But what sort of infrastructure is going to be the most effective? The building of infrastructure to enable the efficient travel between cities through the use of high-speed rail and the development of smart cities, or the creation of smart communities, and this will reduce travel time between home and work or areas of employment, open up new greenfield areas for the development of affordable housing, but still providing access to employment in a reasonable time frame. Imagine if we could get from Newcastle or Wollongong to Sydney in 35 minutes or less, or say Gosford to Homebush in 15. It will also provide an ongoing methodology to relieve the pressure on house prices by extending high-speed rail corridors further north and south of Sydney, or Melbourne for that matter. This will then provide the basis for faster growth in population and hence the economy, and it will create a unique set of opportunities for Australia in the region. The new opportunities for Australia would be in the manufacturing sector and the ability to export skills, knowledge and expertise overseas, not to mention the new employment opportunities that would be created. How would we implement this? Well, it's a technique savvy property investors have been using for decades, and it's called value capture, but this is a topic for another video. In any case, it's unlikely that immigration will drop, and if it does, then expect to see an increase in unemployment, a faltering economy, and even perhaps a recession. Immigration is likely to continue at its current levels, as Australia's growth is very dependent on immigration. Will the government change its immigration policy or reduce it? On this basis, it's likely to stay the same or in fact increase. So what would this mean for the property market? Well, housing prices will continue to rise as the demand for housing increases with population growth and the supply does not keep up with it. It's likely that any oversupply, particularly in Sydney and Melbourne, will be taken up fairly quickly, and so we could see a return to rising prices. But this, of course, is subject to finance availability. The government is addressing the infrastructure issue and it may provide many solutions, but what are the opportunities for investors if this happens? What major projects are scheduled that will have a dramatic effect on property prices? And where will they be? Certain types of property will be required and density changes will be more prevalent around infrastructure centres or hubs, making better use of available land. One could imagine what this would mean if Newcastle and Wollongong were only 30 minutes away from Sydney. Hi, I'm John Moore, CEO of Forrester Cohen, and we help IT professionals successfully create passive income through property investing. Many of our clients have generated exceptional results and in less than 10 years. If you want to back up your career income, we can help you. We do this by creating a documented plan that shows you where to buy, when to buy and what to buy, and more importantly how and why each purchase will contribute to your wealth. And we call this plan your Wealth Builder Blueprint. If you'd like to find out more about the plan, the strategies and the methodologies we use, please click the link below and book a time for an initial chat.